Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports senior college football columnist. He's with us now on Tiki and Tierney on CBS Sports Radio. Dennis, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good. What's up, fellas?
All good in the hood. Can Notre Dame piece together a truly meaningful season with this kid at backup as the backup quarterback?
Well, you'd think now that the attrition is going to get to them. They got by Virginia on the last second play, which is great. Great play from Deshaun Kaiser, but
yeah, it's a great play if you're a Notre Dame fan, Dennis.
Yeah,
I went to UVA,
This is right. This is now cumulative. They've lost 4 players to season-ending injuries since August. At least 3 of them starters.
Wow.
And sooner or later, it's going to catch up to them. The balancing part of that is this is not the hardest schedule in the history of Notre Dame. They only play. Before the season, they only played 4 ranked teams. Now, it's tough, but not the hardest they've ever played. They dropped Michigan, obviously. So we'll see. I'm in the process of finding out who Deshaun Kaiser is. We shall see.
Yeah, no one knows. And they have the tough Georgia Tech team coming up because they obviously play not an full ACC schedule, but they play in the ACC. And we know Georgia Tech can put up some points. I'm interested in your take on Auburn. They were ranked 6th, and now they fall into 18. They struggle with Louisville. I mean, hell, they almost lost this past weekend to an FCS team. Where are they, and what does Gus Malzahn got to do to get this team back on track?
Well, I'm kind of amazed because the thing about Gus's offenses is it can adopt from year to year to the strength of the team. It can be heavy pass, heavy run. A couple of years ago when they won the league, they were the first SEC team to average 300 yards rushing since the days of Bo Jackson in the mid-'80s. So they could do it both ways. What troubles me is they were all in on Jeremy Johnson. He's the guy. He waited 2 years patiently behind Nick Marshall, does everything right, team's behind him. Okay, he has a shaky start against a quality team in Louisville. I'll buy that. But I'm really having a hard time digesting Jacksonville State. 2 more interceptions, bad decision-making. He's got 5 picks. Nick Marshall had 7 all of last season. And it looks like he's not even going through a progression. It looks like he's just locking in on guys. Now, look, they can run the ball. They will be able to run the ball pretty good with Peyton Barber. But I'm worried if he's making those bad decisions this early on. Maybe it's just a small sample size. But losing faith a little bit in Auburn right now.
It's Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports senior college football columnist, Tiki and Tierney here on CBS Sports Radio. Now, try to theorize as to why Penn State, and I watched a good chunk of this game, much like I did with Temple. I got to tell you, Dennis, and you know more about this program than I do in terms of depth and recruiting impact. I mean, that inroads, they are boring, man. That game was 10-7 against Buffalo following the loss against Temple. What's going on at Penn State?
The offensive line isn't that good. Defensively, I think we've seen they're okay, but you're right. It's not a very dynamic program right now, and Christian Hackenberg is projected on the next level, but I don't know if he's getting that much time to throw. I haven't seen much of the 2 games, but when you're struggling at home with Buffalo, obviously that's an issue. And nobody expected them to win the Big Ten, but I think they expected them to be improvement. And if Christian Hackenberg can't improve because of that offensive line or doesn't improve, then that's an issue because that was the strong point of the team. If everything else went bad, they got this gunslinger back there able to do things. And it hasn't been able to happen yet, and I know he's frustrated. You can see it on the sideline, so we shall see.
No, you talk about the Big Ten. Ohio State played Hawaii, and I don't want to say they were disinterested, and BT and I talked about this a little bit at the top of our show, but they're still juggling the quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the consistency there is in their run game. Ezekiel Elliott's a stud. But what can Ohio State, which we know has a very easy-ish schedule. You can never say every game's a gimme. But they're kind of tinkering a little bit, it feels like. Is that healthy or unhealthy for this team?
I think with that team in that particular situation, it's fine. Don't forget, if the top 2 guys go down tomorrow, Braxton Miller becomes the quarterback. So they're going to be okay. Braxton Miller, by the way, looks like an incredible playmaker in his new position. Cardale Jones, I think 100-plus passing against Hawaii. Is it possible to look clunky in a 38-0 victory? When you're Ohio State, yes. Because until they play Michigan State on the 21st of November, every game will be evaluated like this. They're competing against their own standard. It's not the other team. It's like, how good can you look compared to where they were last December and January? And that's really what we're looking at. I mean, they're going to win. They're going to be good. But, if they play one of these games within 10 points, well, heaven and earth in Buckland is going to be, falling apart. So, no, I think in their situation, they can afford to tinker. And in 2 weeks, maybe J.T. Barrett goes out there to start.
Dennis, is obviously an early read here. I don't want to overreact to too many 70-6 games, but which conference, in your estimation, appears a little bit better in terms of overall depth than maybe you thought going into the season? Anybody jump out?
Well, this is going to sound weird, but the Mountain West, I think they have wins over the Pac-12, Big Ten, and Big 12. I was looking at it yesterday. They're 14-5, which isn't great, but when you're in competition with the American to get that golden ticket for the New Year's Six, I think that's a huge thing. Now Boise State lost, obviously, but they've got some good teams there, and the SEC is as usual, whatever it is, 20-2 right now. The Pac-12 has struggled the first 2 weeks, but that's going to get better. I think it's pretty much as is. I mean, I still like my. For Notre Dame honks, I still like my dark horse pick. And Georgia Tech, they scored.
No, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Love them.
Right.
I was
They
pumping them
scored
up in
more
July,
points.
man. This team's awesome.
Scored more points in the last 2 games than SMU did all last season. So it's going to be really interesting how they match up with Notre Dame this week.
Dennis, the marquee game of the weekend was Oregon at number 7 against Michigan State at number 5, and Connor Cook looked pretty good. They come away with a big win. How telling will this game be both for Oregon and Michigan State as we move down the line? As we saw last year, this was one of the determining factors. This game, which Oregon came back and won in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think Oregon did nothing to disgrace itself. I still think they're a playoff team. They hung in there well in a hostile environment. Vernon, I think the difference in this game and the entire game was that wasn't Marcus Mariota back there. Marcus Mariota doesn't miss Byron Marshall wide open streaking down the left sideline 90 seconds ago. He doesn't throw it at a guy's ankles on 4th and 16 to end the game. And that's okay. No one's Marcus Mariota. We saw that yesterday. I think they're going to be fine. I think Vernon Adams played remarkably well in that environment coming from FCS. So they'll be good. That might be their only loss. They've got some tough games ahead. Michigan State, clearly to me has set itself up as the chief challenger to Ohio State, but we knew that going in. And they've got to go on the road to Ohio State. Their schedule is much like Ohio State's until November 21st, although they do have to go to Wisconsin and Nebraska. But that doesn't look like big challenges right now. So it came out of there kind of expected.
All right, little taste to a busy start in the college football season. Dennis Dodd, appreciate it, bud. We'll be chatting soon. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate
you got
Dennis.
it, Dennis Dodd, senior college football columnist, CBS Sports.